these I would consider to be very special contracts like defense procurement contracts because of the fact that the vaccines were new. They were right at the beginning stage of development when these were signed.
Hold on a second. Did he just say defense contracts? These are like defense contracts?
It wasn't like they were signed way after other countries. We were, I believe, one of the fourth or fifth countries to sign the vaccine contracts. So I just point that out because we were early on in the process. And the suppliers had a lot of leverage, and they're unusual forms of contracts. They're the only ones that I know of that are like this are defense contracts. So, and I don't think that's I don't think that's a really difficult thing
You do realize you're conflating contract with pharmaceutical companies that are available in other countries around the world with national security. And I think members have reason to be skeptical about that linkage.
Yeah, I would say so. It's not national security over here. It's not a defense contract. What are you talking about, brother? Come on, Housefather. I love that sweaty little guy.
When these contracts are available, and no other countries put them on the same pedestal as a national security document that I'm aware of.
That's why these companies said, if I'm going to deliver you this product that I haven't tested in my normal way, I want to have different conditions. And with all countries around the world competing with each other to get these, the countries had less leverage than they normally do. For example, if we were entering into flu vaccine contracts or monkeypox contracts or other things that were normally available, this would be a different issue. But these are already signed. They were signed at a time the government didn't have that leverage in negotiations. We just wanted to sign as many vaccine contracts with as many producers as possible because Canadians were desperate for vaccines. And in the end, it worked out. We got vaccines, and we were one of the countries that got to
All right, this is Anthony Housefather, Liberal MP, if you didn't already guess.
I don't think, given that the intention is to keep these documents confidential, that signing the NDAs should be problematic. Saying definitely you should see the unredacted documents because that's for my belief very strongly that you should. But doing it in a way that doesn't create liability unnecessarily and doing it in a way that is in a secure location.
So just to put it into context, the original stipulation is that just for them being able to read the documents, the contracts themselves, that they'll be available at the clerk's office for viewing by committee members only for only 1 day. That's right, 1 day under the supervision of the clerk, and no personal mobile or electronic device will be permitted in the room that day. So this is the original motion, not the amendment that this Mr. Housefather brought. It's already, you're only going to be able to read these contracts 1 day, no electronic devices in there, and then after that you get a 2-hour in-camera meeting, meaning a private meeting, and that during the meeting only committee members, support staff will be permitted to be there, no mobile, no electronic devices, again that, and then you got this numbered paper copies of the documents being given to committee members who are present, and then at the end, those numbered paper copies have to be returned to the clerk, and then that clerk will be destroying those said copies. So that's what already was in this motion. But the amendment seeks them to even now have to sign an NDA. That's just phenomenal to me.
So unredacted draft agreements between Pfizer and Albania. And if you look around the room, who would say Albania is more open than Canada? But apparently they're so, and we're here to protect Canadians and not the rights of Pfizer or Moderna or the others. So I fully support the motions brought forward from our colleague from the bloc.
I'll vote to keep this meeting in public, and on that, I'm going to turn to Madame Sinclair-Degagné.
And I disagree that that lives are no longer at stake. We don't know what the next thing is coming, and to undermine also the ability to work in a commercially sensitive area, well, that's a
precisely because we believe in the work of the Auditor General that we want to go to the bottom of her report and understand her conclusion. When she talks about a waste of doses, is it because the pharmaceutical company...
So what Ms. Nathalie Sinclair-Degagné is saying is really they want to look at what the Auditor General looked at, those same contracts. They're not even able to look at them. Forget about us, right? Us, plebeians at the bottom. We're not even able to look at nothing. But right over here, these committee members, the MPs, can't look at the text of the contracts. Only the Auditor General has so far. And Nathalie Sinclair-Degagné is just trying to get them access to it.
Took advantage of their position to enter into commercial agreements with the government to the detriment of taxpayers' funds. I mean, that information she couldn't have included because options for purchase cannot be publicly disclosed. We really want to get to the bottom of the Auditor General's report. We appreciate her work, in fact, and that's why we want to have access to the same contracts she saw.
We owe it to taxpayers that at least someone is able to access this, their elected officials, and not just their unelected lords and masters in the bureaucracy.
That's a great line right there. Lords and masters, absolutely. They're not just the lords and masters. Someone should be able to access these documents. Is this really so much to ask? I don't know why the secrecy.
We've seen, this information has been public by other governments around the world. America and Europe. I'm concerned about, what the Information Commissioner calls a culture of secrecy within government, where everything that taxpayers should be able to get answers for, or parliamentarians, is blocked. This is not information that's going to be shared outside this room. The motion's been very specific, no phones, etc. And we've seen this before with other committees where we've accessed information in a private room overlooked by the department and the clerk. I see absolutely no reason why elected members by themselves cannot be given access to this that seems to be public in other countries and yet not in Canada.
But this information is public in other countries, right? It's public in other countries, and all they want to do here is that the MPs, are duly elected officials, at least in this committee, want access to be able to look at those contracts in a secure location, as we just outlined earlier, right? We looked at that. Secure location, no mobile phones, nothing like that, no recording devices. They can't even get access to that without this amendment now coming up, which is going to make them sign an NDA. That's right, non-disclosure agreement.
It sounds almost like they're trying to protect the government and not the taxpayers, and it seems the government seems to be the one putting up the fight as opposed to the pharmaceuticals. The reality is we cannot allow something like this to stop parliamentarians from doing their job. It makes you ask, what's next? Does McKinsey get a pass because they have confidentiality agreements? Do we go to finance and say, well, you cannot look at budgets because of other issues? It sets a horrible precedent because, the second an NDA is forced upon us, it will be on other committees.
Madame Singh-Dinge has proposed to keep this information private, actually goes above and beyond what a parliamentary committee is required to do. We in fact, as a committee, could order the government, request the government provide this information without any shield or cover.
That's a great point right there. So they don't even have to go to the text of the motion here. They don't even have to have a secure location just to look at the contracts. But she was very careful in the crafting of the motion to say, hey, we're not going to have any cell phones. We're not going to have any of this. The rest, we're going to have a special private meeting afterwards. We got one day only to look at the contracts. And then we got that meeting where we can then discuss with number of copies that will be destroyed. And this fellow over here, the chair, the president, John Williamson, he's saying, look, we don't even have to do that technically, right? The committee, we were able to actually just order those contracts and then look at them.
So I think what Madame Dinge is proposing to do is the same process we saw with the Afghan detainee documents from the government of Canada in the previous Conservative government, as well as what Canada-China attempted to get from the Liberal government more recently. So there is precedent for what Madame Singh-Dinge is proposing, and in fact, she's put in place mechanisms, I think, that will ensure that sensitive information is protected. But I will say she did not have to do that. The committee could ask for this information and not concern itself with the maintaining any confidentiality. The fact she's done that goes a long way.
A risk to our international reputation as a government and as a country to secure contracts and not be in breach. And it's not just about the cost of vaccines, but also the proprietary information like manufacturing technology and related supply chains. COVID is not over yet. We are still purchasing vaccines. And so I just feel that, breaching our commitments will impact not just our current agreements, but also access to vaccines, but future access.
Of course, another Liberal MP, and this time it's saying that it's not over, right? And this could we wouldn't be able to buy next time. Maybe this could really be sad and dangerous for us.
Companies may not want to do business with us. They may not want to come to Canada if they don't feel that the trust is there.
To say that, okay, we got your report, we agree with you, but we want to understand how you come to that conclusion. We want to agree with you more. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So this is Mr. Hong, and he's arguing that we shouldn't question the Auditor General. We shouldn't look at any of the understanding, right, the actual source material. We shouldn't look at any of the source material that the Auditor General used. I find that astonishing as well, but hey, I guess I just better get used to being astonished. Our own parliamentarians unable completely to read the text of contracts that our government has signed. I'm amazed. I think all of us should be concerned, and our parliamentarians, their own power being reduced so that they can't even, elected representatives, that they can't even take a look at the text. Well, concerning, I would say. But then again, that is the hallmark of Mr. Justin Trudeau's prime ministerial office. So I think, really, should we be surprised at this point? I think not. A big hail to the chat, and hail, brethren, and of course, hail freedom. H for honor, A for accountability, I for integrity, and L for loyalty. I said, hail, brethren, and hail freedom!